So today in Behind the Tracks, we're going to burst a few bubbles over the Shaman, Jim Morrison. Now, we all know Jim Morrison was a great leader of the Doors, self-proclaimed egotist, the Lizard King, all kind of pronouns, nouns, whatever. But his most famous song, he didn't write it. And it never went to number one in Canada, but a cover by a blonde Latino folk artist brought it to number one in Canada. So what are we talking about? Well, of course, Light My Fire. Now, Light My Fire is a song written by the band The Doors. Although it was principally written by the band's guitarist Robbie Krieger, songwriting was credited to the entire band. Krieger did 90%. Recognized one of the earliest examples of psychedelic rock, or what he called horny rock. It was recorded in August 66 and released in January 67 on their debut album. Due to his erotic lyrics and innovative structure, the track has been regarded synonymous with the 60s psychedelia and sexual revolutions. And it's been taken out of context through the years. Light My Fire might not be sexual. Light My Passion for You. You don't have to have sex to have passion. Issued as an edited single in April 24, 67, it spent 3 weeks on number one in the Billboard Hot 100 chart, and it re-entered the Billboard Hot 168 following the success of Jose Feliciano's cover version, which I think was 12 weeks on the charts and charted at number 3, peaking at number 87. The song has also spent 1 week in the Cashbox Top 100, nearly a year after its recording. At the 11th Grammy Awards of 69, the cover by Feliciano won the Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Male Pop Vocal Performance. Feliciano also won the Grammy Award for Best New Artist. Now, the album version is 7 minutes long. The single version, 2:52, and the infamous Ed Sullivan performance, I think is less than 2 minutes 30 seconds. Now, it originated in early 66 as a composition by Krieger, who said he was inspired by the melody of Hey Joe and the lyrics of the Rolling Stones' Play With Fire. On taking his initial composition to the band, John Densmore suggested it should be more of a Latin rhythm. Morrison wrote the second verse and part of the chorus, tried to set the night on fire, while Ray Manzarek added the Bach-influenced introductory organ motif. Densmore also suggested it should open with a single snare drum hit. The band started playing the song in Perths in April 66 and extended with a jazzy improv. When the Doors performed the song along live concerts, Manzarek played the song's bass line with the left hand of Fender Rhodes piano bass, while performing the main keyboard lines on a Vox Continental using his right hand. And of course, just like Kids in a Hall skit, no Doors, no bass. Now, when it came to record the song later in the year, producer Paul Rothschild brought in session musician Larry Snetchell to overdub a Fender bass guitar to double the keyboard bass line. Rothschild also suggested the recording repeat the introductory motif at the end of the track. Although the album version was just over 7 minutes long, it was widely requested for radio play, noted by talented LA DJ Dave Diamond and Elektra Records owner Jack Holtzman asked that a shorter version be released as a single. Despite the band's reluctance, Rothschild edited the single version, cut down to under 3 minutes with nearly all the instrumental break recovered for airplay on the AM radio. Now, according to Krieger, Jim had been writing all the songs, and then when he realized we didn't have enough tunes, so he said, hey, why don't you guys try and write songs? I wrote Light My Fire that night and brought it next rehearsal. It always kind of bugged me that so many people don't know I was the writer. Now, he told Guitar World. Now, the big controversy, of course, was the Ed Sullivan show where he was asked to change, Jim was asked to change the lyrics. They would often mime to a playback of Light My Fire, but they had to perform live on the Ed Sullivan show on September 1767. The Doors were asked by producer Bob Prex, Ed Sullivan's son-in-law, to change the line, girl, we couldn't get much higher, as the sponsors were uncomfortable with the possible reference to drugs. According to Rolling Stone, let's them spend some time together. Now, however, the meaning of the line was confirmed to be literal, as in high in the sky. The band agreed to do so and did a rehearsal using amended lyrics, girl, we couldn't get much better. However, during the live performance, lead singer Jim Morrison, in the first line, sang the original altered lyrics, but he said higher in a low tone. Now, Sullivan did not shake Morrison's hand as he left the stage. The band had been in negotiation a multi-episode deal with the producers. However, after violating the agreement not to perform the offending line, They were informed that they were never performing the show again. Mayor Morrison's response was, "Hey man, we just did the Sullivan Show." The performance was portrayed in Oliver Stone's 91 biopic film, but when Morrison singing higher more emphatically and what's a subsequent retort to Sullivan, the show's producer. Now, and that's kind of over the top because he barely said the line. You could higher, but in the what do you call the Val Kilmer, just over the top. Now, ironically, drummer John Densmore recalled that Buick offered $75,000 in October '68 to adapt the song for use in a Buick TV commercial, "Come On Buick, Light My Fire." Morrison, however, was still in London after a European tour. It just ended on September 20th and could not be contacted by the other band members, who agreed to the deal in his absence. As the band agreed in '65 to both equal splits and everyone having veto power in decisions, Morrison consequently called Buick and threatened to personally smash a Buick with a sledgehammer on TV should the commercial be aired. Now, according to published reports as well, there was some error in the production. According to the 40th anniversary mix, the press release on the anniversary of the song, the debut album presents a stereo version of "Light My Fire" in speed-corrected form for the first time. The speed discrepancy, being about 3.5% slower, was brought to Bruce Botnick's attention by BYU professor Michael Hicks, who noted that all video and audio live performance of Doors performing the song, the sheet music, and statements of band members show the song's the key almost a half step higher, key of A, than the stereo release, which was a key of A minor. Until the 2006 remasters, only original 45 RPM singles, "Light My Fire" and "Break On Through," were produced at the correct speed. Now, a live version was released in their live album, "Alive She Cried," the first of several live albums released in subsequent decades to include the song "Light My Fire," and it did good success. Of course, Densmore, Krieger, Manzarek, and Morrison with Larry Schnetzel on bass guitar. Now on the charts, Australia, number 16, Canada, number 2, Netherlands, 27, New Zealand, number 7, South Africa, 13, UK, number 49. Yes, only 49. Billboard Hot 100, number 1, Cashbox, number 1. Canada, number 4, year-end charts. Billboard Hot 100, number 6, and Cashbox, number 2. Now, to coincide with the movie, Finland, number 12, Ireland, number 1, and UK, number 7. Certification, gold in Italy, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and United States. 2 million copies sold. Now, the Feliciano version has a mixture of classic Spanish guitar and soul with American pop containing proto-Latin rock stylings. A little bit longer at 3:33, came out in July '68, and if you can find it, quite good. But here it gets ironic. It charted much better than Morrison's original internationally. Australia number 15, Brazil number 2, Canada number 1, the only country who went number 1 in, 54 in France, 14 in Ireland, 24 in Netherlands, 3 in Mexico, number 16 in New Zealand, number 7 in Norway, 13 Sweden, 25 Spain, UK number 6, US number 3, R&B charts in the States 29, and Cashbox top 100. Now, year-end charts, Canada 27, Billboard 52, and Cashbox 37. There's also an Amy Stewart version that actually went top 60 in Canada and top 40 across the world. Will Young did a version in 2002 with on the charts, did very well, number 1 in Scotland, number 1 in the UK. Now, certifications for that were gold in Italy, United Kingdom. So, ladies and gentlemen, Light My Fire, I think what's the best version of Light My Fire? Cover. It's Johnny Fever, WKRP, where he mimics, he's doing the go, the alcohol test, and Light My Fire, woo! So, ladies and gentlemen, can I be completely honest with you? Jim Morrison, who was just a shaman, Billy Idol once said, "I covered LA Woman not because of Jim Morrison, but because of the Doors." He was both overrated and underrated at the same time. But like I said, it's a matter of perspective. I love Janis Joplin. I love Jimi Hendrix. Okay, I love the Monkees. I love the Beatles. All the players, CCR. Sometimes Jim Morrison just a little bit. Like the big year everybody dying was 1970. He died in 71. That shows you. Like I said, and the problem is we can't get rid of the music because the end is an apocalypse now. But like I said, you look at the interview, if you can find it, the documentary "No One Gets Out Alive." I think it's 81 or 82, where he talked to Botnick and he talked to Krieger and more, and Manzarek and Densmore. He said we got off on stage, but Jim lived it. Rock and roll. But there's a thing is when Jim Morrison was sober, he did a very nice interview with CBC a few months before he died. If you can find it out there, probably one of the most important archive interview of all time. One of the original rock and roll podcasts is when we're saying defund the CBC. What happens to Q and all these different artists and actors are being interviewed? But again, Jim Morrison, probably one of the most handsome men in the history of the world, but he had a personality of a 2x4. I mean, at least with Elvis, you know what you're getting. Give Morrison a bottle of liquor or whatever psychedelia. But you see the interviews, he can barely keep his eyes open. And it compares to a very famous pro wrestler I know who had just all the talent of Jim Morrison. When he's on drugs, he's useless. And Morrison could have just basically been an author in residence or a poet in residence, a la Leonard Cohen or Bruce Cockburn or, Murray McLaughlin or whatever. But he didn't waste his life. He didn't know what he wanted to do. But when people tell me, oh, yeah, that's a good song by Jim Morrison had nothing to do with Light My Fire other than singing it. At that point, he was Roger Daltrey to Pete Townsend. But the song is actually the Feliciano version. And there's a little controversy with that, too, with the International Idol when a guy was doing the Feliciano version and the Canadian part of the International Idol didn't know it was the Feliciano version. If you can find that, too, that's pretty freaky. So Jim Morrison, the Lizard King, whatever, what do you want to call him? Give me Jesus Christ Superstar 24 hours straight, but after a few songs, unless I'm drunk, the doors they're not opening any doors for me. That Kids in the Hall says the best. Thanks for listening. Bye.